Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están de nuevo? Aquí. El canal se llama Seriela, yo me llamo Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba, y estoy aquí para hablar de libros y algunos de Puerto Rico en español. Hello again, here I am again trying to finish what I had read in February. The channel name is Seriela, my name is Alba Mar, you may call me Alba. Let's see what February brought, and I'll try to be quick because March is coming up and it's really full. So what happened in February, as I was saying, was that I got extremely sidetracked by BookTube. Can you hear the rooster? Anyway, the first one that sidetracked me was, I think I mentioned it before, Adriana from Perpetual Pages started talking about the House of Impossible Beauties. That caught my attention because Adriana has a fantastic way of reviewing books and making them very compelling. So I got it off overdrive, and since you know you get the ebook for that and they will take it right back, you can't renew it, so I had to read it. And what I had noticed about what people said about the book, that it was the story of the first Latin house of drag queens, the ballroom scene, right? But it's not just about that for me. I'm going to link to Adriana's review of the book, which would be much better than mine. But to me, it was much more than the founding of the House of Extravaganza, which was an all-Latino house of drag queens. It was also about family. Not only the original family, which could be horrific, but also the families that we create, our found families. And it was about community, and it was about the racism against the community and the homophobia, and also about AIDS. And finally, about love. This really resonated with me, this book. Not only because, as I mentioned before, I recognized the places, the setting, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, but also the code switching, the language. I'm very familiar with that. That was like being at home. And also, it brought to mind what was happening in my life personally when the AIDS epidemic broke out. And I remember, especially as a teacher, students whose parents were suffering from the virus, and some even passed away. So yeah, it has touched our community in very profound ways. Then the other book that I got, I will link the video because I've already reviewed it, The Natural Way of Things, which was also from the library. Very compelling book. I recommend it highly. And then I cannot continue watching Karen at Run Right Reads because I always finish finding a book that I really want to read, and that's what happened when she started talking about Mother to Mother and The Conservationist. Now, I started The Conservationist, but I had to DNF it because it was an audiobook, and first of all, I could not stand the main character. And second of all, I could not understand any of the accents. And I would have to pay much closer attention to use the audio on that book. So I'm going to try to do it in a physical form or in the ebook form at a later date. But Mother to Mother was another one. This was a good month, especially with books from the library. Mother to Mother grabbed me from the very beginning, And I'm going to link Karen's video because I already noticed that Karen at Run Right Reads already uploaded her video review of Mother to Mother. All I want to say as far as my reaction to the book is that I learned so much from the characters' point of view and how they suffered because of appetite. And no, the writing was superb, excellent as far as I'm concerned. It conveyed the setting perfectly, the atmosphere, the difference between their original homes and the townships that they were forced to move into. Fantastic book. I highly recommend Mother to Mother. Then, Pretty Brown-Eyed Reader was talking about the truth about Aaron, and I noticed that she also uploaded her video, so I will link that down below. The truth about Aaron is about the NFL player Aaron Fernandez, who was later tried and convicted of murder. And this book is written by his brother in an attempt to understand what happened to his brother, who apparently had everything that life could offer for him. A multi-million-dollar football contract, a fiancé, a daughter, the love of his fans and his family. And how he ended up this way was a mystery to his brother, and it was a very moving portrayal of a family member who was trying to find answers to what happened. So then I read for Read So Lit, Unforgivable Love. And Unforgivable Love by Sophronia Scott, I will link to Dee Dee over at Brown Girl Reading, is a story that is based, it's a retelling of Dangerous Liaisons, but set in Harlem. And I enjoyed it very much. Now, the thing is that I am familiar with the movie, so I knew enough not to feel any kind of empathy to the main characters. I was waiting for what was going to happen because I knew from the movie that something was going to happen. I am now obsessed because later on, after I finished, I read the afterwards and the interview with the author, in which she states that she was obsessed with all kinds of adaptations of Dangerous Liaisons. And I was like, what? There are other adaptations of Dangerous Liaisons? And I started going down that research rabbit hole. And I've got my little list of movies and books that I want to research and look at that are retellings of Dangerous Liaisons. I am also going to link down below because another thing that I liked about this version of the book is that there's music, and there's frequent mentions of music. The first one being, there was a boy, the Natural Boy, I think is the title of the song. And the classic version is by Nat King Cole. I listened to that, of course, and listened to a few other versions also. And then the cad in the novel puts on a record of Etta Fitzgerald's I Want a Sunday Kind of Love, right? To try to seduce the other main character of the novel. And then I went down that research rabbit hole looking for different versions of I Want a Sunday Kind of Love. And I found Etta James' version. It was a good thing that he didn't have that version because the novel would have been shorter for sure. I'm going to link that one down below. And you make the comparison and see which of the songs you like the best. And then I finished The Known World, which I showed you in the last video. The Known World, we have finished this in a buddy read. There were about 5 or 6 of us, and this is a book that had so many layers and complexities to it. It's a winner. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It was a tremendous and fantastic read. We're finished, but we're still talking about it. While I was preparing this video, we just received one of the last comments about this book. I might do a video about it later on, but it is so rich. It is so rich. Everything that happens in this book and what it depicts. I highly recommend The Known World by Edward P. Jones. What else did I read this month? Oh, this is my pick for a book cover at iHeart. Why? Look at that dimple. Look at that smile. Look at the hat. That's Antulio Parrilla Bonilla, obispo y profeta de Puerto Rico by Miguel Santiago Santana. This is the story of Monseñor Parrilla, a bishop of Ucres in Puerto Rico. He was born in the late teens, I think it was 1914 or 1919, and he passed away in 1995. So he lived during a very turbulent time in Puerto Rican history. So, and the title of the book is called Obispo y Profeta, which means bishop and prophet. And I think he deliberately did that in that order, the author, because first he was bishop. He was a member, a staunch member and defender of the church. And before he was a prophet, he was first of the church and then a prophet of the church. And that's a very important distinction, because he based everything he did as a prophet in Puerto Rico on the edicts and the papal encyclicals and the letters of various popes. And the author goes through a lot of trouble to point this out. Sometimes tedious as far as reading goes. But I came to understand what his purpose was behind it, what his motivation was behind all the repetitions of the encyclicals and the papal letters. One of the things that first caught my attention in this book was that the dedication, one of the people that it is dedicated to, is my professor, one of my professors at the University of Puerto Rico, al doctor José Ferrer Canales, antillano patriota y maestro. That was a great professor. He was the one, the only one, who gave me a C. And that 21 C, that one and only C that I got, that's him. Dr. José Ferrer Canales. Such a brain, such an intellect, an orator, a wonderful human being. I was so happy, so blessed to be able to see him again in San Sebastian at an activity that he was present at. My professor, José Ferrer Canales, I was so glad to see. And there he is reading something at Monseñor Parrilla's funeral. So that's one of the first things that caught my attention in this book. And yeah, he's a prophet, Antulio Parrilla Bonilla. Because for a prophet, actions speak louder than words. So yeah, and we see that on page 8 here. Even before chapter 1, on page 8, he makes that distinction right here. And I'm going to read it in Spanish, and I will leave the subtitles. Put the subtitles so that you can understand what I'm saying. Cuando una comunidad u organización o movimiento religioso cualquiera se cierra en sí mismo, tiende a volverse elitista, inauténtico, artificial y hasta hipócrita. Se convierte en un gueto y puede llegar a ser verdadero opio del pueblo. Pero tan pronto la fe se vuelve al exterior y se encarna, se vive y se refiere continuamente al diario existir, surge como lógica consecuencia el compromiso social. Al plantearse este compromiso, que no es más que una implementación en la práctica de la esperanza y del amor a favor del hermano, del otro, la fe se hace vivificante y necesariamente descubre poco a poco el otro, con mayúscula, en el prójimo. So yeah, Monseñor Parrilla was a believer in actions speaking louder than words. So the structure of this book made me doubt that I would want to get, this is a loan copy, that's why I have all these tabs here. Because this was borrowed from a couple that was married by Monseñor Parrilla. So I have to give it back to them. And the paperback just came out in Puerto Rico, and I was thinking, well, should I get it? Should I not get it? Because I'm not too fond of the structure of this book. He starts off with the entire brief biography of Monseñor Parrilla, from birth to death, the story of his family, his studies, everything else. And then he proceeds, after that first chapter, to elaborate on everything that Monseñor Parrilla was interested in. For example, he talks about Bishop Parrilla on the church's social teachings, what's called here la doctrina social de la iglesia, the social doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church. And the author is very intent on having us know that Monseñor Parrilla was acting because of encyclicals and pronouncements made by the popes. So all of the encyclicals and the pronouncements are right there in chapter 2. And then in chapter 3, he wants to let us know what Monseñor Parrilla thought about capitalism, socialism, Marxism, and cooperatives. Monseñor Parrilla was one of the biggest promoters of co-ops in Puerto Rico. And at his death, according to a podcast that I just heard, he was a little disillusioned at the way, the route that cooperatives have taken here on the island, because this a real implementation of co-ops in Puerto Rico would have really helped out our economy. So yeah, but he dedicated much of his life to forming and educating about cooperatives. And then chapter 4 is Monseñor Parrilla on an organization that was formed by the church hierarchy in Puerto Rico called Acción Social Católica, which was a social action organization created by the church in response to Pope Leo XIII and Pius XII's call to respond to economic and social needs. Then one of the longest chapters was Monseñor Parrilla's involvement as an activist against the Vietnam War, against the draft, against selective service, and in favor of conscientious objectors, not only here on the island, but in the United States also, in Spain, and everywhere there was an exercise in conscientious objection. He was there. And he was also against the presence of the Navy on the islands of Culebra and Vieques. You know that Puerto Rico is really an archipelago, and there are 3 islands. The main one here, Vieques and Culebra. And in Vieques and Culebra, the Navy had expropriated lands from the people there to have their bombing exercises, and they would bomb the island. And so he was arrested in civil disobedience because they would go to the beaches in Vieques against the Navy's wishes. Of course, it was dangerous, right? But they didn't care. They were going to do civil disobedience, and they did. And he was arrested. And then what was interesting to me was that the one who had him arrested was Justo Parrilla. Now you remember, there he is on the beach, and there's a soldier. There's a soldier, and there's Monseñor Parrilla on the beaches of Vieques. He was arrested. And the one who saw the case in federal court was the same one who just declared in the First District Court in Boston that the appointments made in the junta for Promesa here on the island is unconstitutional. He's sitting at the First District Court of Appeals in Boston right now. But at that time, he was a judge in the federal court here in Puerto Rico. And he